And like that, we are live. Hello, lords and ladies of the internet. I'm the King of Candor, and welcome back to the Council of Candor, episode 31. Today, we're going to be discussing the death of the author. Now, I got a couple fun things planned for everybody today. First and foremost, we have our lovely co-hosts here. We're going to go through them real quick. First up is my fellow YouTuber, Creatively Garbled. How you doing, Garbled?
I'm doing good. I think that Arthur D. Author should die, and that's why we're talking about him on this podcast.
That's it.
So true.
There will be an Arthur talked about in the podcast. Don't you worry. Next up is my other fellow YouTuber, Mr. Magic Goat. How you doing, Goat?
Oh, hey there. I'm having an interesting day, good and bad. So I'm excited to talk about why we should murder all authors.
Excellent.
Did Arthur fuck your shit up again?
And language, Garbled. Language. It's live stream.
Okay.
All right. Next up is, we're going to skip Des for a second, and I'll see why. So next up is Peg, our current author. How you doing, Peg?
Hi.
I wanted to talk about
good.
being pegged to death. What the hell?
Hang on, Des. Give me a second. There's a reason.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I'm an author. I do author stuff. The whole fuck, I forgot the name of my trilogy. The Homestead trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, go check that out.
Let's push some more at the beginning.
Or yeah.
I
These
do like
three
the
who
new
don't know
one.
how to keep their mouths clean are all linked in the description. That is why we skipped Des. This is us bullying you, Des, to start a YouTube channel or start some creative endeavor so I can link out to you, my boy.
Oh yeah.
Do it. Do it.
So. And Des, do you have anything you want to say since you're the final one here?
Oh, I can't wait to beat pegged to death with rocks. For being an author.
Excellent.
So true, Oomphy. So
Do we
true.
have to
I
stop
know
at
all of
rocks,
you
or
in
can
the
we use
chat-
like rebar?
Yeah, all of you in the chat are very excited for today. Make sure you go bully other chat people because I have something special. And those of you in the call, I think you should pull up the live stream and get ready to watch the screen. This
I already
might be a
have it
little
up.
janky at first, chat, so forgive me. But I have something new, a little treat, little snacklage for you guys, as it were.
I'm excited. I love when we experiment on the YouTube.
It should be
Okay,
working
did
in
you-
3, 2, 1. Booyah.
Okay,
And
is this
like
a blackmail
that, chat,
video?
congratulations. I gotta resize it a little bit. We have an in-house movie to keep you accompanied. I own all the rights to this movie because it has no rights. Welcome to the 1924 movie, The Thief of Baghdad. It is a silent film, so all the dialogue will be shown on screen in big, bold letters. So feel free to occupy that with yourself. Subway Surfers was not available. While we talk today about the death of the author.
Well, that's kind of
That's amazing. That's
Oh wait, that
actually
is copyright.
cool.
Probably.
This is actually really cool, though.
Yes, it is all completely copyright free. Yeah, that's what I said. I tagged because nobody owns the copyright. I own the copyright, and because now I'm talking over it, this is legally my recording of the video. So welcome to our riff track. No. So
Does that mean that as long as we keep talking, we also share ownership?
yes and
I
no.
don't think
Technically,
that's
I
how
have
that
ownership
works.
of the product that you guys are creating. I
I
would
was
gladly pay
gonna
you out an
say.
equal share of anything, but I don't know if we're getting paid this episode, considering you and Peg just love to say things. You have to rely on the audience's
gonna
loving
say
donations. So, if you love us, audience, donate. If you love me specifically, donate. A few things for the audience. One, I've got a double ear infection. So if I don't hear things, if I sound out of it, I'm sorry. And two, the right headphone on my headphones just blew out as we were going live. So,
Are you serious?
yes, I can't hear out of that anymore. So I'm down to mono quality. So if there's any audio issues, chat, please let me know. I probably cannot hear them right now.
Okay.
Otherwise, let us start talking about the death of the author. Now, death of the author is a really interesting theory to talk about. The most important thing that I want to touch on is kind of the guy who was the progenitor of this. I don't know how to say his name correctly. It's Roland Barthes, but he's a literary, I guess critic is the best way to say it. But he was a theorist in the 1960s who was talking about the way that we should actually engage with media And specifically for him, it was with novels, but we've moved on from that to music and movies. But the idea is that the meaning that you get from engaging with a work is more important than the meaning that the author intended to put in there. And this is because authors will often put things into their work unintentionally. Therefore, it's up to us as the audience to interpret it correctly, and that we are the final authority on the interpretation, not the author. So that's the quick version of what it is. And I think from here, it's a great spot for us to start expanding on our ideas from it. I'm going to let you guys go first. The floor. Who wants to start with their thoughts on if Barth is correct or wrong?
So I have the very nuanced view of it depends on how much you suck. If your interpretation is really, really cool, then yeah, sure, down for it. But if your interpretation is just terrible, it's just a really bad interpretation, then no, you don't deserve an opinion. The author was right, as it turned out, and I'll stand by that.
If I say enough mumbo jumbo and lingo that I can circumnavigate the wonderful, wonderful Strait of Magellan throughout the entirety of the cosmos and come to the conclusion that you have marital problems.
It depends on how cool your conclusion is. That's the real thing. It depends on how.
Yes,
cool
I'm saying that you're fake.
Yeah,
you don't exist. You're a phantom made up by Kid because he's currently sick. You don't exist. You're fake.
That doesn't sound very cool. I'll give that a 3 out of 10, and as such, disregard it.
Disregard what?
Your whole idea there. 3 out of 10.
I made a theory?
No. On the idea of death of the author, this is something that I actually went through. When I was in college, my professor was a huge fan of it, and our entire English course was actually to take death of the author to the most logical extreme possible. We had to take, and this is something I love, and if you're out there, Mr. Raider, I'll gladly have you A on the podcast. B, I'm a wild success, and I haven't forgotten what you taught me. But the final of our class was to take the book Green Eggs and Ham. Yes, the one by Dr. Seuss. And we had to argue the interpretation of the book, of what it really means. One person would argue that Green Eggs and Ham was actually talking about how we need to have more green energy subsidies, and that's what the green eggs represented, the green eggs for green energy, and how people kept rejecting them until they realized how beneficial they were to society. A lot of people argued about it that it was promoting fascism or communism or whatever funky ideology they had, that the green egg, they found a way to make the Green Eggs and Ham twist into that. It was a very fun project because when you get down to it, the actual thing that Green Eggs and Ham is, it's just a little story of a guy rejecting something he doesn't like before even trying it. So you can map any ideology or anything onto that. It's a story meant for babies to teach them, hey kids, you should probably try the broccoli your mom is feeding you. That's the point of the story. And that's why he said that you should put anything you want onto it. And that's why he taught us how to do that. I think it's a very good way to understand the most radical extreme version of death of the author. You can map anything you want onto it. However, this is him teaching a bunch of normal people how to deal with this. Unfortunately, we don't deal with normal people. We have this horrible thing called Twitter. And unfortunately, it gives a lot of stupid people opinions and lets them say things that are just wildly inaccurate. Such as, and I'm going to shout out one of the server members, Xenodrome. He recently reviewed The Hills Have Eyes, which is a classic horror film. There's a person whose name I won't mention who recently killed his whole channel for going after Wendigoon, who said
that badass.
That genius. The Hills Have Eyes is not a horror film about people being lost with cannibals. It's actually a film about the white man and the way he's settling and colonizing the Native Americans.
Yeah, it's like supposed to be some sort of anti-nativist propaganda film. Because look at the cannibals in the hills; they're so disgusting. They're mutants. This is what our enemies are.
Intriguing. Tell us how you came to this conclusion, and please tell us why.
He came to the conclusion the same way all racists come to their conclusion. Those horrible, disgusting monsters on screen, that must clearly be a minority. Just ask extra credits on their opinions on orcs. Instead of viewing them as, amorphous monsters that can slot into anything that you want or just general bad guys. They have to be a specific representation, of course.
What I'm finding what's surprising is that there are so many different ways to be like, no, like this could be like anybody, but we do this specifically. Like, a lot of children's media will have like animals as their main characters, and you'll see that across a whole bunch of different media. But the entire point of that is that like, oh yeah, well anybody can be this. It's just that like you tweak your perception a little bit. It's not exactly human, but they're functionally human, and we sort of circumvent but he doesn't look like me, because it's like, that's a rabbit. Yes, of course it doesn't look like you. It's a rabbit. And that's how you're supposed to make that connection, is that you're focusing more on the personality of the people. So it's just sort of like, so why are you coming to that conclusion, You're looking at the scary men in the hills, and you're saying, oh my god, they're terrible, they're cannibals, they're evil. These are obviously minorities. Why?
Death of the author. This is taking Death of the Author all the way to the problematic point, where you just start adding fictional narratives on top of the work that either has your own baggage or is clearly not something the author intended or is actually in the work. That's the illogical side of Death of the Author.
So I think the interesting thing about Death of the Author, and like when you really look at it, is that it's only as valuable as other people agree. Let's take another medium, something very similar, noise music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that
real quick. What do you
Yeah.
mean by noise music as compared to like other types of music?
That's the point. That's what I'm getting at. So a couple of people had the idea that I believe the big one who inspired it as like its own genre was a guy named Luigi Russolo. And there's been other people since then who have gotten more into it. The idea is that music, people like sounds. There's obviously specific sounds that people like more than other sounds. And when you put them together, you get music. But music can literally be anything because it's just noise. It's just noise we happen to interpret in a certain way. 500 years from now, when we're all dead and we've all been like nuked by aliens or whatever, theoretically, and they find Pag's book and they read it and they don't know English, the story will literally mean nothing. But that's only because the other people agree it doesn't mean anything. Noise music, it's the same thing. We can all agree that this is music and this is noise. It's just because we like certain things. So, Death of the Author, it's very important that like people have their own interpretations, and they always will. But if you can't persuade other people of your interpretations, they don't matter. They don't substantiate to anything in reality.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's just the how cool is this idea, and that's why Han shot first is a thing, because a whole bunch of people saw that change and they were like, "Wow, really sucks that they made the other guy shoot first and he's only shooting back. That's not good for Han's character."
It makes Han a completely passive character now. It removes a lot of the aggression and edge that he had, which made him a villainous character, because Han used to be villainous. And the whole point of his character is he becomes good. It changes it completely.
Yeah.
With Greedo shooting first. And that is a good point to reference. That it's a very famous piece of Death of the Author. Is Lucas's alteration of the work okay? However,
No.
I think there's a second step there. That there's one before we even get to that, there's one step before that. We talked a lot about the extreme where like you make up random stuff and assume that the author said this. What about if the author wrote something completely wrong in their opinion? My favorite example of this is actually from the novel Watchmen. Well, I guess it's a graphic novel, Watchmen. Rorschach is meant to be an objectively like horrible person that nobody gets along with and everybody hates. But that's not how he wrote it. Rorschach is probably the best character in the entire thing. It's okay, Alex. You're allowed to be late, buddy. Glad to see you here now.
I'm just remembering this interpretation. It's just killing. Do you have that one comic that somebody posted, kid?
I do not, but if you get it, I could put it on screen.
I actually love that example.
No, you can't. You're playing the movie.
You can pause
it. Just put it over the movie.
I mean, you can pause it or you put it over on top, add more character to it. I was going to say that
the
Rorschach thing is really common because Rorschach is a super interesting character, and the author just fucked up in trying to make him like unrelatable. He's just super relatable instead. And I don't think we should agree with the author's opinion. I don't care. I think Rorschach's a cool character.
Rorschach is probably the most common example brought up with Death of the Author, along like right next to Starship Troopers. I think
Starship Troopers is a bit more complicated. There's a bit more going on there because it's an adaptation of something. But Rorschach is
no. I'm just saying it's like in terms of when Death Author is talked about, I feel like it's around this like one of the more popular examples to bring up in terms of like fiction.
Oh yeah. Those are probably like top 2.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like those are probably top 2.
Yeah.
Let me just resize a little bit for you boys. There you go. There's the comic that Garble's referencing.
I feel like if Alan Moore had wanted Rorschach to be like a character that people found villainous, he should have made the principles to which he like unbendingly, held true to. He should have made those principles bad principles, like
I think
eating
in his
people
own opinion
or something like that.
That's why Rorschach hates homosexuals and hates women, and he's just outwardly aggressive against like what you'd consider protected groups.
Pause the movie. Sad.
Huh?
You didn't pause the movie. I didn't look like you paused.
He did.
Okay, now it's paused. Okay.
Yeah. Don't forget, you're on a delay from the live stream, sir.
That is true.
So, like I was saying though, one of the big issues that you run into with Moore is he's too good of a writer to write Rorschach in a way that wouldn't automatically add in the benefits of his character. In order to write a character like this, that's not just a crappy caricature. He had to give Rorschach enough realism and like real points into it that made him a good character by default. It's an interesting conundrum. If he was a worse writer, he would have very easily made Rorschach this detestable monster. But in order to try to make fun of and lampoon people he didn't like, he had to give Rorschach some of the qualities that those people had, and most of those people are not like objective monsters. They just like want lower taxes or want a little bit more morality in society. And also a big problem with Rorschach for Moore is audiences love characters that are like active, that do things and like move the world forward, and he more than anybody else in Watchmen really pushes the thing forward. Like you've got the I forget the name of the girl, and then Owl, the Owl guy. Like
Spectre.
Yeah, Spectre. They kind of do stuff, but nowhere near as Rorschach. He's definitely the guy who protags the most of the entire story, and he's pushing everything, and he's getting stuff set up. Up there with Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan. So like he's one of the big three. No dub people are gonna associate with him. People like Vader because Vader gets stuff done.
Yeah. It's active versus reactive, and he's very much going after these goals and going out in the city. Whereas aren't a lot of the other heroes just in retirement? It's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah, he's pretty much the only one who keeps on keeping on.
That's what that right there makes you like him.
The comedian was the comedian was like the only other one.
The book, the comedian was in retirement the whole time, but like it's also you have a character doing stuff. It's hard to not like a character who's out there trying to do anything, even like wrong. So that's how Alan Moore screwed up. On top of the fact, he ended up making Rorschach just too likable because, like Pag said, he doesn't have enough horrible things associated with him that you'd want to remove him. Also, you got to remember, like this is just from a perspective, people will often overlook some of the more heinous stuff about a character if they enjoy the character. This is how like Rick from Rick and Morty also exists. Rick is not a good person. Liking Rick is the wrong answer to the question. However, if you enjoy watching Rick's shenanigans, that's completely fine. You don't want to be like Rick, but watching Rick do stuff is a lot of fun. Early season Rick and Morty, of course. It's horrible.
Yeah, there's a big difference between. I want to say relatable is the word I'm thinking of, but that's probably not correct. But there's a big difference between entertaining and moral. Like, the best example I can think of is Borderlands 2 with Handsome Jack. I'm not sure how much your audience with the main reason there being. Yeah, but the main reason why people enjoy him so much is less because he's this moral upstanding hero. It's like, no, he cracks jokes. He's this kind of lovable asshole, and then by the end of the story, you also understand who he is as a person, and it's a lot less of like, wow, this jackass is being a jackass because he likes being a jackass, and more of like, fucked up world, huh?
Well, a thing
Yeah,
with
though
it
Handsome
too is
Jack is
that
actually like really awful.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, kid.
yeah, garbled is your downfall. Anyways, I think a big part of it too is that a lot of what Rorschach does and is more like with in the Punisher style where it's not what he's doing that people usually like don't like. It's like it's the lengths that they go to. You know, like how punishing they are. It's not the fact that they're actually like, you know, fighting to stop, you know, XYZ. Plus, given everyone else gives up at the beginning of the story except for him, and he's the like you said, main driving force who's trying to stop um, you know, whoever and find out who killed the comedian. I mean, there are reasons that he's so popular.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he really is the protagonist. Oh, he's like the most relatable human protagonist in the book.
He
Like,
said you wanted to make Rorschach a horrible person. However, the comedian turned out to be a PDF, and if you're going to be
Yeah.
you're going to have the character kill a PDF, he's going to be really hard to make the villain.
Yeah.
Rorschach. Wait. Rorschach doesn't kill the comedian. But,
Oh no, that's Ozymandias,
Yeah,
right?
Ozymandias.
yeah,
too.
Ozymandias kills him. I was gonna call that out, but since you called, I was gonna let it go. Yeah, no. That's
no.
Ozymandias. Because I'm pretty sure he does kill a PDF file. I think
He
that
does.
might
He
be.
does.
I think that's
Spoilers.
well,
He-
yes. It's been out
That's
for like what, 20 years, 30 years? It's like 30, 40 years.
Anyway, spoilers.
Look,
That
it's
was-
really hard to make people
yeah,
not like you when that's like, okay, what was the moment you snapped? Well, this is the type of person I
Yeah.
killed. Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the time he snapped was I think I don't remember if he's a PDF file, but he definitely at very least he definitely at very least killed the kid and then like I think
he's
fed the
even worse. We
body
can't even
to
talk
the
about how
bugs.
awful the
Yeah.
person who made him snap is.
Yes,
Yeah.
the person
So-
that made him snap was genuinely very bad. Which
And the problem is that he
Yeah.
just kind of does. He tends to do. I mean, we don't see him do any like objectively, just absolutely just the wrong thing. Like he doesn't just randomly beat any women or anything like that. He doesn't like rob anyone or anything like that. He seems to only do terrible things to people who deserve terrible things being done to them. Which
yeah, but like
you
he
know,
also does things that are like more like the fact that he does it with such convictions to draw to him. Billy Foyle from the book we read last week, which stars my destination, you should definitely go read it, chat. He does some horrible stuff. He's a monster for the first half of the book. You know, easily.
Yeah.
But you enjoy watching him because he's dynamic and he's interesting. That's why he works when someone like Thomas Covenant doesn't. Even though demonstrably they have the exact same storyline going on. They have the same idea of I'm a person down on my luck, everything sucks. I meet a lovely girl, I do some horrible things to her, and then I'm supposed to be the guy who fixes the world. The difference is Covenant cries and complains the whole time, whereas Foyle steps up to the plate and swings the bat. That's why you will automatically like an active character way more. So
yeah, that's absolutely true. So earlier on, Alex Gomez said, "The thing about Death of the Author isn't art meant to be interpreted by the observer, so whose views are more or less valid?" So yeah, that the thing is the author only has a say, like one say, or maybe let's say he has 20 says in exactly what his story, because yeah, art is meant to be like interpreted and observed. But the author is the person who like made it. He's the person who knows the absolute most about the story, and so his opinion should be rejected or should be accepted and put onto something of a pedestal. Whereas you're just random dude, he doesn't necessarily have the same like understanding and knowledge of the story. So yeah, the people's interpretations should be for sure looked at. But I wouldn't say the author has final say, but the author definitely, has a big say.
I mean, the author is writing the story, so like they have pretty much all the control. The only thing they can't control is whether or not people read things incorrectly or differently than he reads them, you know?
Yeah, or if they unintentionally put things in.
Yes, and
Yeah,
I think that's
true.
the next part I wanted to talk about with Death of the Author is typos and errors. Because let's just assume for a second that
Did you spelled errors wrong?
where did I spell errors?
Oh. He didn't. He's just being a jerk. Kill him.
We should kill him. He's already just.
I get it. I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Creatively garbled.
Me, girl. I'm too sick to deal with this, sir. You're outwitting me tonight on my own podcast. Please, have mercy. I'm on two aspirins at once. So no, but like I was saying,
Wow, double the aspirin.
Huh?
Nothing. Never mind. Go on, kid.
I'm telling you, man, I'm sick right now. Please, I have a very hard time doing things.
Okay, it's all good.
Errors and typos. So, the great example is actually I want to point to Mandalorian. It's very obvious that when they're shooting episode 4 of like season 2, I think it was, with a guy in the back shot that had like a white t-shirt and jeans, he's not supposed to be there. Or in the opening for Lord of the Rings, when they're walking through the Shire, there's a Volkswagen Beetle that passes by on one of the hills that they forgot to edit out. That's very clearly not saying they have Volkswagen bugs in the Shire and that cars exist. That's very clearly an error. The problem though with Death of the Author is
was it an error?
Huh?
I said, was it an error?
Yeah.
Do they have Volkswagen Beetles in the Shire?
Exactly. And, like something like that is very obvious to all of us. Like, that's clearly an error in the shot. But then you got something like we said with Han shooting first. Is that an error, or did you change your mind? And then you have something like with Rorschach. Is that an error, or did you just write it wrong? And then, as mentioned earlier, when you get to something like Starship Troopers, the movie, and RoboCop, the movie, where the guys, where it's meant to, like, we view it as a loving satire. There's also, but the author, like the guy who directed it, thinks it's like a scathing rebuke. Is he wrong? It's really weird. Like, is he just stupid when he made his thing? I don't know. And that's the problem with Death of the Author, is it makes people trying for errors and clarification that can't happen because the work is done. No matter how much Lucas wants to edit his work specifically. And I don't know. It's just really interesting. And I think that's where the Death of the Author concept collapses, is around errors. And that's the only time I've ever seen it not work as an interpretive style. And I'm just, personally, this is what I want the discussion for the chat to be. I'm not sure how I want, I'm not sure how I want it to feel. So what do you guys think?
Well, yeah, to a degree. I mean, when you have something like George Lucas's power to go and edit the thing, and now every version of the film that you can possibly buy is Greedo shooting first. When you have that kind of ability to edit something, it kind of becomes the official.
I was gonna say there is a difference between like something like I guess the Shire would be a good example versus the 2 Star Wars one, because that one's still, you still see that in the movie, where the other 2, like there might be an argument originally when they originally aired, but I mean at this point, like because of Star Wars as a brand, they've re-released both of those to where they're just not in the film anymore. So unless you want to argue that for whatever reason the old version of both of those, are the true canon one, like they redid it. Like objectively they redid it and it's different now. Like it's a slightly different.
You can't get a version where it's that way.
Yeah.
Like that
exactly.
just is the way it is now.
Yeah.
And I think in the case of Lord of the Rings, removing the buggy, removing the Volkswagen, that is an error of like filming. That's like a mechanical, like a mechanistic error. Whereas George Lucas doing that's kind of like a weird form of editorializing your own work.
Exactly. It's almost editorializing or like second edition, with some books type thing.
Yeah.
I think that that's where it gets interesting because that the buggy doesn't actually change the plot. It's very or like another good example is like when cigarettes don't burn down correctly. They don't have magically refilling cigarettes in that show or movie. That's just errors in the filmmaking process. But
Yeah.
I don't know the way Lucas did the filming thing and redoing it. It feels so strange because we, as the fans, can't claim ownership of this property. We literally don't own it. It's his property, but it wouldn't be famous without us. And it's a fascinating little conundrum it's got itself stuck into. That's why the interpretations that you get from Death of the Author are so important because it helps you.
I mean, for the Star Wars examples, I wouldn't really put that in Death of the Author. That's more of retconning stuff where, big thing with retcons is just rewriting the either a scene or rewriting something after the fact, or very least can be. Depends on what type of retcon.
Death of the Author, though. The next step of Death of the Author is you have to have Death of the sequel. Like that's the next logical conclusion for Death of the Author. Is the book itself just can't be affected by outside works, which normally you'd say that doesn't matter. But then we have to go back to Star Wars. There's no way that you can tell me Episode 8 lines up with the rest of the Star Wars trilogy. It's completely antithetical to the world and the way it functions. Just not even getting to Episode 7, which is contentious. Episode 8 is 100% against Star Wars. Is that true? What about Indiana Jones, where he's sad and pathetic and his kid killed himself?
Yeah, I got a better example than that. It's Episode 8 and Episode 9. Like Episode 8 is distinct enough, but Episode 9 almost like is a middle finger to the movie directly preceding it.
They can't coexist together. Or
backtracks on like half of the things that Episode 8 does. Yeah. Not to say Episode 8's
these
changed
films
for
are
good,
arguing with each
still.
other. Like they're different directors, but they're still one creative work essentially. How do you reconcile that? Or whatever the heck going on with the poor Aliens franchise?
Yeah, that poor.
I didn't know that they became impoverished. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh my gosh, this guy. First he demonetizes the stream, then he demonetizes Aliens. So sad.
Wait, why are you saying that I'm the one who did that? I'm just pointing out the observation. Kid called them poor. I didn't do anything, and if I did, it was perfectly legal and justified.
I do want to know, yes, Alex, that is The Thief of Baghdad. It is copyright free, and because it's a silent film, I'm going to have it on in the background the entire time so we can enjoy a little bit. It was either this or Subway Surfers, and I figured at least give some film education to people who don't want to listen to us poorly.
Anyways, Garble, yeah, go on. Go swear and demonetize kids' stream some more. Go on.
With pleasure.
As you did that, I hit the run an ad button, so that half the chat doesn't know.
That's awesome.
That would be the ideal.
Glorious.
Yeah.
Next thing we could talk about though is what about like how do I put this? Authors who give clarification after the fact. The positive example of this is Tolkien. Tolkien's letters are fantastic for understanding the insight, and for 9 times out of 10, they give good clarification and help explain things in this world, and it fits within the settings.
So I think Tolkien's letters are a very, very different animal from retconning. Because Tolkien's letters tend to flesh out things that aren't in the story, or like you can think about them, like theoretically they're in the story, but it was just people asking questions about something that existed in the world. While most retconning is actually changing how things played out.
Well, that's the thing, though. Tolkien's clarifications can be retcons, and this is the big argument that's been happening with orcs forever. We had actually a huge debate in my server, links below, by the way, if you're not part of it yet, about orcs recently, and if orcs can be redeemed, because Rings of Power said they can be. Rings of Power says they have souls, which it can't.
But why can't they just
Yes, Garbled.
But kid, why can't they just like go live in peace with their families and like raid your village in sometime? They just want to live in peace.
Exactly.
Raiding, destroying, pillaging, like they're just like you and me, man. Like
Garbled, why don't you add in there's another R word that I'm thinking of that they do. Why don't you say it since you love demonetizing kids' stream?
The R word?
Yeah, the R word.
I'm gonna kick you both off the stream. I'm gonna kick you both off the stream. I swear to God.
I'm not trying to play into this, alright? He's the one who keeps on making this happen.
I'm gonna do
what
it.
What do you mean? You have free will, Garbled. You have free will, and you said it.
Orcs don't. That's kind of the crux of the argument here. Tolkien struggled deeply because he's a Catholic man, and he couldn't conceive of a way to make a race exist that could not receive the light of God, could not receive redemption. Now, whether they would choose redemption, that's a different story. Of course, you have to choose to follow God. So that's part of the reason that the orcs are the way they are. But could they, how do you make something not able to be able to redeem if they have a soul? The answer is they can't have a soul. And that means that orcs cannot be corrupted elves for that to work. Because if the elf was corrupted into an orc, he theoretically should be able to seek redemption to be uncorrupted. That's why Tolkien constantly is changing between they're corrupted or they're simply creations of the evil gods. Because if Sauron and Morgoth just creates them like we see in the Twin Towers, where they're birthed from the earth as this almost like a evil construct, if you will, that right there, it makes sense why the orcs can't seek redemption. They don't have souls. They're barely above animals. They're just violent and angry. So they don't need to be thought of as living creatures the same way we think of humans and elves and dwarves. But if they're corrupted men and corrupted elves, as they are very clearly in the Lord of the Rings novels, then why shouldn't they be allowed to be redeemed? Gollum's another great example. Could he get redemption? We know he fails and he would not seek it willingly, but shouldn't he be allowed to get redemption? And that's what Tolkien struggled with his letters. And I think that depending on how you interpret his letters and how you interpret orcs, that changes completely the Lord of the Rings story. Because if at the end all the orcs are chased away and slaughtered, it's a tragedy because they never had a chance to be redeemed when the Dark Lord was killed. But if they're chased off and destroyed as just the monsters of the woods, then it's a huge win because good won and all the good guys got to go to heaven. So that's why even I would say Tolkien's letters, even though they don't feel like retcons in the way a lot of the other guys do, they still do affect the story, and that's why Death of the Author would be important for it.
Yeah, I guess when you look at it in that respect, you aren't wrong. That it definitely changes the content of the story, even if it doesn't directly retcon anything that happened in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a lot more okay with that sort of retconning. That sort of kind of trying to figure out the full implications of the work after the fact. I'm a lot less okay with the Han shot first type deal. Kind of struggling with the meaning of your own story is something I'm super into. And also just one of the things that I did when I wrote my stories is I usually put things in there where it's not necessarily one way or the other. In the third book, there's a guy who's kind of a loser who buys an android that he then falls in love with, even though the android it's just a thing. It's just an object. It's a very well programmed object. But it's just an object. And kind of the question there is whether or not that's real. Whether any of that is real at all, even though he really feels it. And I don't have an answer to that, and I don't want to ever give a specific answer to that, at least on my end of things. I prefer for people to kind of think about that.
You also do that with the villain of the second book.
Yeah. Whether the villain of the second book is actually a bad guy is also kind of a big one that I left.
Or at least if he's redeemable.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just kind of up to the reader. I want that to be up to the reader. I don't want to specifically put my 2 cents in, or even whether the main characters of the book are even good people, whether Taran is a good person or not at all. Kind of up to the reader. And I think that's what you should do. I think that you should put things in there for people to interpret. I think another way that Alan Moore could have made Rorschach better is if he didn't have his own agenda. If he literally, when he was writing it, if he was like, you know what, you can make your own interpretation of this, because I feel like that's how he wrote the ending of Watchmen. He wrote it so that people would kind of have a question. If he was intentionally writing Rorschach to be like, is this guy good or not? I think that would have been a feather in his cap instead of a permanent, forever black eye that everyone will make fun of him for.
Yeah. It's also because you can just, I mean, no one's forcing you to tell the truth. You can say, you don't have to tell people that you had an agenda. You can tell people they can just interpret it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can argue whether that's dishonest or not, but like at the end of the day, no one's holding a gun to you and saying like you must pick a side as an author. You can be as ambiguous as you like.
Mm-hmm.
I can go and do that for somebody if they need that to happen.
Be ambiguous for them?
No, to hold the gun, because... Well, you said that there was nobody doing it, so I mean, like...
I agree.
I don't know, if you're picking well and you provide the ammo, why not?
Don't quit your day job. Comedy's not working out for you.
I think we should.
What makes you think I have enough money to quit my day job?
We should beat Garble to death with rocks instead of Pack. I've changed my mind.
What kind of rocks? Are we talking?
Bricks. Standard building bricks.
But what about obsidian? That makes it even more interesting.
No. Bricks are just more effective. They're just... It's
what was your authorial intent when saying rocks?
My authorial intent was...
Wait, does that mean that I'm Arthur because I'm going to die at the end of this?
Oh my goodness.
You can't outplay me because I'm already outplaying myself.
Crap, rat.
Anyway, so what else you got, kid?
I think we need to talk about the wizards pooping themselves, because this is a fantastic version where I think everybody...
Oh my goodness, that's right.
That death of the author is important, and this is why it's relevant. So, J.K. Rowling really messed up her books because she has Twitter.
Oh my God. Yes.
The single worst thing to happen to the Harry Potter is her on Twitter. Because she wanted to be like Tolkien, when she added clarifications and more lore afterward, which I would have thought before J.K. Rowling is a 100% objective good thing. I could not see
what could be the problem with this?
Because it's nice to say little things like you couldn't include in the book. And I'll even go to bat for the first mainstream one, where she came out and said, oh yeah, Dumbledore was gay the whole time. It was weird.
Famous.
But it was one of those things like, okay, that's nice. It's fine. Like I still remember the Zeitgeist around when it happened. It was like, okay, that's a neat clarification because it adds a little bit to his character, and it's not really in the story, but it's fine. But it gets weird because then she starts saying stuff like, well, Dumbledore never liked Harry, which...
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's
he did?
Yes.
What? Or she did? I mean, I guess I should...
Why did she say that?
Yeah,
works for both of them.
Dumbledore, and the last book really pushes this, and you can tell this is because Rowling, how do I put this without getting demonetized again? Does not like the men very much. She had some problems with men, and therefore Dumbledore couldn't be a good person. So that's why in the 7th book he's kind of a jerk. It's really reinforced if you look at the way he acts, and even hints that he's like Harry. She clarified, yes, this is Dumbledore. This is not Dumbledore, because when audiences first read the 7th book, they thought that a lot of the ways Dumbledore was talking was pragmatically to Snape. You know, like he was like, oh yeah, we need to do these things to to set Harry up so he succeeds. I'm sorry, I just got sonic shocked by what Alex said.
What?
What do you mean?
I actually remember that. That's my favorite part of Goblet of Fire, the Sausage Fest orgy.
Huh?
Yeah, Gandalf and all of the male wizards, or all of the male teachers.
I haven't read Harry Potter.
I haven't read Harry Potter either. But also, wasn't the point of Harry Potter sort of you have to defeat the evil inside of you, and that's why he has a part of the main antagonist inside of him, and it's about overcoming those evil urges over the course of the story, so men can be good?
Partially, but Harry's a kid, not a man, and that's also why in the Cursed Child, Harry sucks. He's a POS in the sequel she wrote. Like, oh god, he's a prick. He's Jake Skywalker level jerk.
What does he do?
He like smacks and yells at his kid when his kid starts asking him about the dark arts and stuff.
Just immediately attacks him.
Yeah. So
yeah, why are we not allowed to shut your mouth?
Exactly.
Anyway, so we haven't gotten to the most funny part of J.K. Rowling.
She kept adding clarifications to her setting, and a lot of the clarifications were fun things like, "Oh yeah, McGonagall's hat is actually a reference to something like 18th century hat, some play." Okay, sure, why not? Like those are the setting. That's, by the way, what I thought everything was going to be. It was just going to be something like, oh yeah, Minerva's, McGonagall, her first name means owl in Latin. That's why I picked it. Or Hermione is her mind only. Like, the cool stuff that you want to hear, the stuff Tolkien put. Somebody asked her, hey, if wizards are magic, how do they dispose of waste? The question was meant about trash.
No.
Hang on.
What wasn't it? Was it that? I thought it was like, how did they do it before toilets?
No. The question was about trash specifically.
Oh,
and
that's
she said
very
they magic
funny.
the trash away. So then there was a follow-up question. Was okay, so where does it go? They said she's like, oh, it goes to the landfill. Okay. Is that for all waste? Yes. What about poop? And she said, oh yeah. The wizards could just magic their poop away. Can they do it from inside themselves? Now, she's very smart. She realized, oh, if I say yes, that you could take like things from inside yourself and teleport it out, that's got a whole bunch of problems. So she sat there and she's like, I got the solution. No. They just poop themselves and they teleport it away later.
They just shits themselves.
Never mind, the entirety of the second book relies on the girls' bathroom being a key plot point.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a big thing in book 2, where there's the ghosts in the bathroom and everything.
So
look, it's only for wizards that are over the age of 16 or under the age of 16, because 16 is when you learn to teleport for some reason.
Where you learn the depoopinator spell. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Alex never says where the poop goes. They just teleport it away. She says to the poop dimension.
I thought she said a magical dimension. Oh, okay, that was a joke.
It was a joke. I think she confirmed it was canon, but like, is that good or bad? Is it worse that she said, I don't know, or that he has the magic poop dimension? Like, that's a Rick and Morty joke that it goes to the poop dimension.
It really is, yeah.
Like, didn't he also have something crazy about, like, guns in Harry Potter? Like, wizards don't know what guns are. They think they're funny, like, boomsticks.
Yes, wizards have no idea what guns are.
Even though World War II has happened. Like, did World War II not happen in the Harry Potter universe? I know.
It for sure did.
Yeah.
There's movies on it.
There's multiple things on the World Wars and thing. The 1600s, and she specifically said, like, this is just, again, Rowling, please. The witch trials that happened all across Europe, they were bad that they happened because they targeted real witches, which, by saying that, you end up making it good because they did target magic users instead of the actual horrible events that they were. And that was that was the first Wizard Holocaust. And that's why people know the spell abracadabra, because that's them saying Avada Kedavra. That's just them misremembering abracadabra. Abracadabra misremembering Avada Kedavra.
Okay, so that part is interesting, but the rest of it, no.
Yeah, like... Oh, no, you said the first one, right? Did you mean the one that happens in, like, the Magical Beast movies? The plot of those?
It's way before.
I hate
the author and death of the reader. No, J.K. Rowling killed her readership by coming out in support of biological women. It's quite interesting that's the thing that broke all of her fans. Not all the garbage she wrote.
Funny.
Like,
no,
she completely lost her freaking mind and went off the deep end with the way these. Like we said, wizards poop themselves now. Like, again, you look at a wizard, you look at Dumbledore, and he's just there crapping on the floor, and is teleporting it away. Like the most undignified, just disgusting way it could be, and it's
just plop.
Just plop. Yeah. Not even it. Hey, they teleport it in. Because the answer's right there. They just use the bathroom. And then they have one like poop wizard come every month or two. And he goes to the pit that collects the poop at the bottom. And he teleports that away. You know, the guy who comes cleans your septic tank? This should have a septic tank wizard. I don't get why they had to poop themselves as they're walking around town.
Because
whenever I
poop.
Whenever I think about how funny J.K. Rowling stuff is in Harry Potter, I'm remembered of another series that's also about wizards in Britain. It's a lot less popular. It's called Duggery Pleasant. The main character's a skeleton, and in that one, it's great. I remember really liking it in middle school and high school, so I don't know if it still holds up. But in that series, wizards just use guns. That's it. Some wizards just have guns. The skeleton wizard, he's always packing heat because it's really convenient to be able to shoot people. Yeah, I cast 50. I cast 45 ACP. You know, it's just convenient. There's no magic poop. There's nothing. They don't try to explain away anything weird. The only weird thing they explain is that werewolves and vampires are the same creature.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Yeah. So, when it becomes I don't remember if it's a full moon or if it's just I think it's just when it becomes night in general when exposed to the moon. Vampires go from normal people into literally immortal monsters. Their only weakness is salt water, by the way. So there's several scenes where the main character, the not crossing water thing, that's the only real weakness they have. So the main character has had to push 15 vampires into the ocean over the course of the series. And every time the main character does this, they just become more legendary because everyone says vampires are immortal. It's very entertaining. At least from what I remember. Now I kind of want to go back and read it and see if it was actually good or if it's just childhood memory.
Well, you got Alex Gomez's interest at very least.
There you go.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure do love wizards pooping themselves. In fact, we need to have more series with wizards pooping themselves.
So true.
But yeah, sometimes when you add details, you add the wrong details.
Yeah.
Just, I guess as an author, the moral is, as an author, keep an eye out for adding details like everybody poops themselves.
I can't wait to see that in your next book, Peg.
Yeah, people.
I can't wait to learn how post-humans poop. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. Yep. They actually don't. No poops. No poops for post-humans. They use all minerals.
They don't waste
all
a single thing.
Nothing. Yeah. They don't even have buttholes.
They don't excrete or sweat or anything.
Nope. Well, they do sweat. There's a purpose for sweat, but not pooping.
Yeah. On to a movie that people is at least vaguely familiar with, and there will be spoilers up ahead for Joker 2. For Dwarf.
Oh no.
For Dwarf is a example of how Death of the Author should be taken as something to be thought of. Because some authors have no clue what their work meant. No idea why it is, or they hate it. As we talked about with Rorschach. Thank God Alan Moore never had the chance to come back and show us what for. Unfortunately, Todd Phillips did. The first Joker film,
Kid.
Yes.
To be fair, DC did have the chance to add the Watchmen characters to the DC universe. So Alan Moore might have gotten to it, but DC sure as hell did.
I mean, I'm glad they didn't. DCEU is horrible.
No, I mean the DC comics. They did that in the comics.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's incredibly stupid that they did that.
Yeah.
I know about that. That's just cash grab. We can talk about that later. That's just people not. What?
No, I'm just laughing at you kind of realizing the implications of it.
Anyway, so back to Joker 2. Because just like The Last Jedi, it hates the movie before it, but this is the same director within the same decade. We've had directors come back later and like not understand their franchises. Ridley Scott and James Cameron are great examples. But like they often come back a long time later after their attitudes have changed and after they have like several really good movies under their belt. And you can tell they got a little bit pretentious and started hanging out with the art students too much, and they just can't be associated with their previous works. It's much too pedestrian for me. But this is interesting. What happened with Joker too. Todd Phillips very clearly did not like how the audience responded to the first Joker, and it baffles me how angry he is about that.
Yeah, he didn't really hate his previous work. He hated the audience of his previous work.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a really crazy thing to do for the people who give you all of the money. Like that's, you got, yeah, an absurd amount of money for what he made.
The comedy director do like a serious drama director. They prove you have the chops, and this film was just so cruel. It's just needlessly angry at the audience, and like the entire point of Lady Gaga's character is to poo-poo the audience and say, "Look at how stupid you were. You're just like Lady Gaga, you stupid buffoons."
Yeah,
and it's so frustrating because DC just let him go because they said, "All right, we're going to trust you." You know, why wouldn't we trust you? We didn't trust you for the first film, and you made it to Bill. So we're just going to trust you that you kind of know what the heck's going on with the character you made from the last film. And
I mean, he knew what was going on.
He
just knew it too well.
Just
yeah, really it's absurd.
Like, I don't get why you do that. I just don't. Has anybody in the call actually seen this film besides me?
I have not actually seen it. I've just seen many, many clips of it on the old Twitter machine.
So
and let me tell you,
I haven't seen it. I've just looked online at the plot synopsis.
That was my question. Like,
I can talk about it.
Yeah,
I can talk about it. I just don't feel confident that I know the specifics. I plan on eventually watching it, just out of morbid curiosity. I feel like to properly insult something, you have to watch it. So if it's really worth insulting, gotta watch it.
Probably is really worth insulting from what I've seen. Yeah. Like he just kind of the whole idea is like regressing the Joker character, because at the end of the first movie, he's kind of someone who's making things happen instead of things are happening to him. And like that's the very first time in his life that's happening. And then in the second movie, they're like,
and he's moving on with himself.
Yeah, even though he's moving on in not a great way. Let's be real.
Yeah, he is literally a murderer. The first time it was self-defense. The second time,
well, the first time, like 2/3 of it was self-defense.
Self-defense. That's true. When the other guy started running away, it wasn't really self-defense anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that guy sucked.
Yeah.
And again, he might be doing a bad thing, but he is taking control. He's still, taking the wheel and driving instead of, being passive in his own life.
Well, it's kind of like horror. Like the best way I can put it is like horror movie logic of like, well, why did people die? Because who was it? Like Michael Myers and stuff is like, oh, they're doing like bad things, and bad things are gonna happen to them because they're doing like evil things. It doesn't necessarily mean that like Michael is justified. It's more of like, hey, they're doing stupid things, and that's why stupid things are happening to them.
Saul was like that too, but he was also insane. It's like, yeah, these people are bad, so I'm gonna build a torture machine, for the good of everyone.
I'm gonna do a torture machine and do elaborate, like you have to do an elaborate,
moral test that involves like just utter insanity.
Exactly.
Like incredible. They have no idea how to write that dang movie. Saw really should just be like a series of moral tests that are, because too many of them are just unfair.
I was gonna say a big part of it is that like half of the movies, like not even half, like 90% of them it's like impossible for like there's no way that the person could have known like what they were supposed to do.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
not a moral test.
People
And then
who
there's
did
like that
Saw-
sweet like 2 or 3 movies that actually are like here's moral test, moral test, moral test, moral test.
Or something that's possible to pass.
Right, or that, yeah.
I think the interesting thing though about the Saw franchise is that like they just the first movie. I forget if it was a student film at that point, but I know it was like super low budget.
It was super low budget, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know some of the later stuff that like some of the people who worked on the original Saw did was really cool. There was one about like this guy with a robot in an AI in his head that takes him over. So they definitely like evolved, but yeah, I think
they
like
definitely evolved.
at first they were just kind of winging it and just trying to do whatever they could.
Well, they're definitely winging it because the main Saw guy dies in like Saw 3, but then they keep on having flashbacks so they can use the same actor and have him like be the mastermind all along with all his proteges until like Saw 10, where they're like, screw it, we're in the past. He's alive during this time. This is before Saw 3.
We give up. We need him.
We're not gonna have flashbacks for half the movie. We're just gonna make this one a prequel.
And then we'll have flash forwards instead.
Yeah,
I can't wait for this. I hope they should just reboot Saw. I mean, honestly, like continuing Saw at this point is kind of gratuitous, but it's just kind of incredibly hilarious in its own way. There's something
how many of them can we go through?
Yeah, like how are they on 10?
How many are there at this point? Yeah, they gotta be out.
They're on 10.
Yeah.
10 is coming out next year.
Wait, I thought 10 already came out.
No,
Are they
10
on
is not. No, it's 10.
Isn't
Oh,
Saw
I'm sorry.
X?
I'm sorry. 11 is coming out next year.
Yeah, that makes more sense because I'm like, they had Saw X. I could have sworn that was 10.
Yeah.
Like, why else were they calling it Saw X if it's, Roman numeral 10?
Yeah, Saw XI comes out next year.
Okay, that makes more sense.
They're just gonna keep making them. Why not?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, the
Keep
last
going,
one
really.
they cracked the code. They're like, we can bring back the main guy who makes the saw traps and has cancer, and everyone actually cares about, unlike his proteges. And
I
we can
can't
just set
really
it in the
blame
path
them
before
for-
he gets shot.
I can't really blame them for like milking a money printer.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at their filmography, right? So one of the guys who worked on Saw worked on one other movie before that, and then the other guy, that was his first movie ever. So, very, very early on in their career.
Yeah, like it was super early.
Got a super chat from Legacy for $5. Why is the John quotation with Zack Snyder wanted to happen to man in prison? Is he stupid? I agree. He is very stupid. Yeah, so chat, those of you who don't know, if you liked Joker, Todd Phillips wants you to know he hates you specifically. And he's going to take the character that you liked and do awful, awful things to them. Horrible things to them. Things that we would, as a society, say no bueno about. Specifically to their bodily autonomy, if you catch my drift. It is incredibly...
Me too.
Incredibly, yeah. Hashtag me too. It is
so true.
So screwed up for no reason. Again, it's... You'd only do that if you hated the character. Which is sort of the problem with the latest Joker film.
Well, I don't agree with that necessarily. You don't have to hate the character to make them go through something terrible.
The way it's
for
done
like
in the film, though, it is specifically it's full of hatred.
Mm.
It is. Now let's go. It's a new level of petty. Me 3. Exactly. But no, it is. Joker's like. Try not to spoil things. When you watch the film,
does anyone care about spoilers?
I'm trying to not spoil.
I guess Go probably actually does.
I mean, you can.
Probably does. So
I was gonna say you can totally spoil it. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's worth spoiling if it's better for the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, chocolate demonic?
No, we don't. You don't have to say the word. We know. He just say me too every time it
He
happens.
literally, or just talk about how much Joker just really loves grapes. Grapes are his favorite fruit. They're so delicious and plump.
But yeah, so the film is very mean in the way it works. Joker is beaten down throughout the film again. He's for some reason it's a rehashing of the first film. And as he starts to like regain his jokerness and start to figure out what's going on, he gets taken to the back by a guard, and the whole film he's been joking with this guard, like they've been telling jokes to each other. And the guard he Harvey Weinsteins him. Brutally beats him and does that. It's like, why would you do that? This character was a guy he's been joking with the whole time. So now you're having him get, upset with by an authority figure, someone he was somewhat of a friend with in his jail cell, because he told a joke on TV. And it's like, that's... And you watch it, it's just like, why would you do that? It's just, I don't know, it just feels upsetting. Drake Boy says, my biggest fear is people trying to reinterpret my stories so that fits one political agenda. Most stories that I write are simple to have a deep philosophical meaning. Yeah, I fundamentally feel that problem too. With my stories I've written and the stories I've told, is just, this seems pretty stereotypical for what he got in Joker 1. No, Sebastian. Just, if you watch the film, it is very... The way you shoot something is important. The way you put angles on the camera and the way that you show off the actual images that are happening. It's gratuitous. It's near celebratory in some of the way the shots are. It's almost like they got a like...
You try to figure out a way without cursing, right?
Figure out a way to without being disgusting the way I'm saying it. That's the problem.
You're talking about Joker 2.
Well, yeah, but like, here, I'm gonna just type it in
also,
our private chat to explain real quick for you with it.
Are you saying what happens to Joker that makes him not Joker anymore? I was off grabbing a beer.
He's describing. He's trying to figure out the words for how he wants to describe.
That makes sense. I don't know how to say that on YouTube. It's shot in a way that's like tantalizing, I guess is the best way to put it. Where
it's very gratuitous.
Yeah,
I can
it's not a horrific.
It's very gratuitous. The Goblin Slayer manga has the same issue, where like the other stuff is kind of shot reasonably, but it's almost supposed to be like titillating, which is wildly inappropriate.
It's the exact same
context.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing as like the scene with the blonde girl and Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones. Like you know the scene I'm talking about immediately comes to mind.
Of course.
They oh my god, isn't this just so terrible? Like, look at how terribly, wonderfully we've rendered this so that way you can see it in all of its glory. Doesn't this look so awful? Oh my god.
I don't know. Like, not even that. It's like it's meant to be hot.
Yeah, like it's this kind of like weird, almost Schadenfreude of just sort of like, oh man, it'd be so crazy if like this actually happened to you, wouldn't it? Haha. But it never would, unless.
Like said, more with it, it's hot is the problem. Like that's the way the media wants you to think. It's like that creepy guy with a cigar hanging out of his mouth, leering over you, and be like, oh man, ain't that the stuff? Like that's the vibe you get from the way they shot it, and it's like that. It's gross. Like, why would you pick that to shoot? You're the film director. You have infinite time, infinite ways to shoot it, infinite angles. You can slow and do things down, and it feels, just gross.
It's like I'm at the bar with my uncle all over again, and he's talking about women, and he's my uncle's like 50 plus. And he'll like talk about the girls he sees in the bars, like he's one of the young guys, and it's really creepy. It's really creepy.
And again, that's why I think the Joker film.
You never met this one.
I haven't. Just, I don't know, man. This film it upsets me a lot because I have friends. I have one friend specifically I'm not going to say his name. He knows who he is. You'll meet him on the cruise, Des. This film really impacted him a lot. The first Joker. He suffers a lot with depression and autism, and just feeling like an outcast in society and not understanding what people want from him and the way he fits. And for that to happen to Joker, really just, I know it screwed him up, and he hasn't talked to me in 2 weeks. He won't talk. Since the film came out. It didn't watch a hero die. He didn't watch, like, he understood Joker sucks. He understood Joker's an evil person, and the results of his actions are not what you want. But he still identified it with the broad strokes of Joker's struggle and the way he dealt with mental health. And he's like, you know what, this character, I see why he's wrong. I'm in a spot similar to Joker. This guy clearly is more messed up and clearly went down the wrong path. Like, you could see that. And for this to be the result, I don't know.
I guess it's like seeing because like people who suffer with a lot of like mental disorders, if you ever talk to them, like they have a lot of issues relating. And I can understand if they have that issue and they feel like they can kind of really relate to this character, seeing him be like ostracized again and like punished for it, for them probably is the worst feeling they can imagine. It's like, oh, society really does hate me. That's what some people will see when they see that movie. From the sounds of it,
it's just gross the way it does it. It's not like he does something to deserve it. Now, I know it's 2024, and the struggle snuggle's a very bad thing. It's the worst thing you could possibly do.
Struggle snuggle.
However, you can justify that being the result the character gets as a negative action. If they did something terrible and that's what they get in return, you can almost like see that as karma or karmic. There's nothing he does that's deserving of this, especially not in this film so far. Even if you look at his actions in the previous film.
Yeah, I mean it's just purely it's just purely a result of the author's spite, of the author's hatred for the people who like the original. The wrong people identified with Joker, and so he was like, well, I have to destroy this symbol. Let me do whatever I can to destroy this thing that I've created, because the wrong people identified with it. And that's why he did it. Like, you shouldn't expect there to be deeper artistic considerations in these choices. The reason was spite. That's all there is. He hated you. He hated anybody who related with the character. He hates you. That's it.
What a friend of mine calls a spiteful mutant for doing that. And it is.
He really is.
And I just, again, I'm all for artistic freedom, and heck, I would be completely fine if this was, the way the film probably was originally, but just, why he did it. You can listen to him in the interviews, the way he talks about this film. He doesn't talk about this film the way you want an author to talk about their work. He talks about this film as, I guess, Judgment Day is the best way to put it.
Yeah, it sounds like he just made it in retribution, in rebuke to the character himself. Yeah, just a shitty way to lose $200 million, or I guess 150. It was what, 250 million? What was it?
Well, you gotta double that from. Well, you usually want to double it for the marketing, but is my understanding. But I don't even know if there was too much marketing, so I don't even know if it would be double.
I saw a good deal of it.
I was gonna say,
marketing.
I didn't see it, but like, marketers are pretty smart who they market to. They know that if they know you're not gonna watch the movie, YouTube doesn't market movies to you. I know, like, advertisement, especially if you're like me and like you see an advertisement and you're like, wow, now I want this thing less out of spite. Yeah, I most people aren't actually like that, though, even though it feels like it.
Like, ads still serve their purpose 9 times out of 10. of informing you about a product. The thing is, most people who advertise, especially online, have garbage products. So the real issue isn't so much that ads aren't good. Ads are great, especially for letting you know. It's just everybody's product sucks. If you got an ad right now in this video, which by the way, you will, haha.
Oh
no!
Right
this second.
No, I've already gotten several ones, several political ads. How dare you?
Thank you, Kamala. Please, Kamala.
I can't wait.
I'll let you know right now. If you're listening, Miss Harris,
hey,
$5,000 for support. I will gladly say, let you come on here and say that Kamala is a candidate. That you definitely should support.
Let's just have it when you went on League of Legends.
Hey,
remember?
Hey, kid.
Yes.
You're not that important, okay? It was for state elections.
But I could use
$5,000. You're not that guy.
No. It was state elections. It wasn't even a Kamala or Trump ad. You're not that guy.
Oh gosh, you're getting local state elections. Oh man, I'm getting mayor ad revenue. Dang.
Yeah. I'm not saying that you're not getting Kamala. I'm saying you're not that guy. You're not even getting the Kamala ad on your stream.
Hey,
or at least I didn't get one.
Can't believe it.
So anyway, like I was saying though, with $5,000, Kamala, $5,000, call me. You can pay for an advertisement. I'll make it clear as an ad, and everybody wins. I get money. You get to pretend like you're relevant. It's great.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah,
you can't say that, kid.
I know, but I'm trying to lighten the mood. The Joker discussion really broke me. I hate it.
Just like did. The second movie broke Joker. There we go. It all ties together.
Exactly.
They did really break.
Oh, that was the idea. It truly does. Yeah. Just like my Looker video, it does. It truly is artistic.
It was all. It's very funny. It's my favorite video he's made so far. My favorite video Goat has made is the latest video he's made every time. He just keeps getting better and better with his quality.
Thank you. Even if you're just saying
I don't know about that. I'm very
fun. Chop Goblins is still great, but I wrote that script, so that's why I love it.
There you go.
Well, I didn't write that script, and I still love it probably second or third.
That's
What's
fair.
your first? I probably
it is a very good
first. Me and Goat have written about half the videos together. I love writing with Goat. One of my favorite things to do.
I might say the latest one. I need to rewatch it.
That's the only one I haven't written for. That was a great one.
It's either Chop Goblins or it's that or the latest one. I need to rewatch the latest one.
So funny thing, I wasn't gonna upload at all this week. I just felt like the urge to write that after playing the Looker.
Nice.
And it was great.
Yeah. There you go.
It was very fun.
Good video. Did like.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep.
It's funny. I just got an ad text to me from a local mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, see, you can get you can maybe get the magic or the local fundraising. That's what you'll get. Or what's it called?
Any mayors in chat, I'll give you a special rate. $1,000, I'll support your candidacy.
That's not a bad deal.
Yeah. I accept
It's the easiest $1,000 you'll ever spend.
All right, chat.
Have we talked about Starship Troopers, the movie versus?
No, we haven't.
On to the weird category now.
We haven't gotten to that yet, but we do need to.
We're talking about Starship Troopers and RoboCop.
Yeah. So I really love Starship Troopers. I love the movie. I really love the book, though. At this point, it's no longer one of my favorites, but really enjoyed the book. The funniest thing about the movie versus the book is it's another movie that is built based on spite, and yet somehow it just worked. Everything worked out in the end. He completely was like, fuck this book, I hate this book, and the author too, they're both fascists and I hate them. So he set out to make this scathing rebuke in his movie, and he just failed. He just totally failed to make a scathing rebuke. Instead, he just made a really cool movie, which actually faithfully represents a book that he didn't read. It's incredible.
He didn't read the book.
He did not read the book.
As someone who really, really, really appreciates the fine art of adaptation, it absolutely shatters my heart into a trillion pieces how little people adapting things actually like read or care for the thing they're adapting. It's awful.
I know that. I do know they typically don't. It's just I don't know.
It's
I guess
because usually when like someone's adapting something in like Hollywood, from my understanding, it's just we got this right. Who are we gonna give it to? We're gonna give it to whoever's available right now. They're gonna make this movie and it's gonna make us free money.
Right,
because there's a fan base.
Yeah.
Oh. So he did not even read the movie or read the book, and yet somehow the movie he made is a very, very faithful representation of what Heinlein put forward in that book, and it also
that was Heinlein?
isn't. Yeah, that's one of Robert Heinlein's most famous books.
Oh.
Yeah, the one we read for book club.
Second best book we read on book club so far.
I know. That's why I was surprised because I'm like, oh wait, we actually read something that this guy did.
Yeah. Dawn of Summer is one of his like less popular works by far.
It was a great book. I love Summer.
It was a great book.
But so the thing is, right, in Starship Troopers, Heinlein like lays out his politics, like directly. And
it's society, and you're reading it. You're like, am I reading a political manifesto or a book? And Heinlein opens the book, closes it, looks you in the eye, gives you a kiss, and says, "Yes, now go to sleep, honey."
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, in pretty much every single book, there's a character that's just Heinlein himself in that character spouting his ideas at you. He's very aggressively direct. So if you don't like that, you're not going to like. No, it's not subtle at all. Unless you like that, you're not going to like. Let's see, you're not going to like Double Star. You're not going to like Starship Troopers for sure. And you're not going to like Stranger in a Strange Land, because all of those have just the Heinlein stand-in spewing what Heinlein thinks at you. Indirect like words. And what Heinlein thinks is clearly not fascist at all. Like not even a little bit. Like Heinlein is like free love, dude. He was probably going to like swinger parties with his wife. Like nearly certainly.
Well, I mean, like the Heinlein insert in Door into Summer did find, people
in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
the best people you could have encountered, the nicest, the random naked people in the woods are just happy, great people. That's not something a right winger writes.
No, it's not. They would be awful savages. It's like, oh man, these filthy nude people, they all attacked the author and had their way with him. But no. And the funny thing is, so the director for this is it Villeneuve? I don't know. I'm terrible with director names.
Oh.
Who directed Starship Troopers? Fuck. Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, Verhoeven. That's right. I remember it. Yeah.
RoboCop, that's right. And Total Recall. By the way, he's got some bangers. It's really weird because he seemingly hates everybody that he makes great movies for.
Well, the thing with all those is that I haven't seen the actual interview, so I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that basically all three of those are just like bangers, but like apparently whatever message he was trying to do for all three, like he just completely failed.
If I could be successful in the way this guy screws everything up, it would be phenomenal.
For real. This man like fails spectacularly. He's the definition of failing spectacularly. RoboCop is supposed to be Jesus. We'll get to that. But
what?
Yeah. Yes. In Starship Troopers though, so he wants to like put Heinlein's ideas as fascist. So clearly, if you were going to do that, right, you would want to, I don't know, like since you didn't read his ideas anyway, you could just kind of make up whatever you want. So surely he would, have them, destroy all of the minorities or like not have women in like equal roles in society and shit like that. And Verhoeven just didn't do that.
Actually, nice people asking for help and love.
Yes. And he just didn't do that. He was just like, man, I'm just not going to do that. So not only like was he terrible at like making something spiteful towards the author that he didn't even make something spiteful towards fascism. If this is what he thinks fascism is, it's like, well, it doesn't really seem that bad. Like, I'm gonna be real.
Man, isn't it awful? It's like you got clean streets, wonderful people who just want to have help. What are you trying to say with this?
Everyone's treated equally. This is kind of weird. This isn't what I learned about Nazi Germany at all.
Oh my goodness! No, you fool! I mean, it doesn't matter because Garbled already ruined it. But you said the word.
If you follow it with Germany, it's fine.
Is it really?
Yeah, because it's a historic event.
I don't think
we don't live in Germany where you're true. Like literally not allowed to talk about it. You can.
We are on YouTube.
YouTube, I'm pretty sure does.
Yeah. Any mention of the word? Was it me? Did I say it?
In favor of the policies of the nasties, as we're going to call them for YouTube. I will say it right now. YouTube is 100% nasty adjacent.
I'm pretty sure Yahtzees is a much better one because it's less likely to accidentally say the,
Yep, Yahtzees is another great one. YouTube is
Yahtzees
anyway in favor of the Yahtzees. They love his reviews.
I love that YouTuber. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Paul Verhoeven is just a moron.
Oh, he's incredible.
I think that he might just be like a total moron who is like gifted with I don't know, like film vision.
Maybe he's just really good at making movies. Like, another thing is maybe he wasn't actually that spiteful during making it. Like, he focuses more on...
I've heard for all three of those movies, it sounds like he was spiteful. And he just, failed to make his own
best
point.
Movies. That's the thing. None of his other films anybody cares about. Like, here, do you actually care about The Immodest Acts, The Life of a Lesbian Nun in Renaissance Italy? No, that was his 2018 film that he came out with. Nobody cares.
I didn't know that was a film.
Is that real?
Showgirls is also a terrible film. Terrible film.
Awful.
Where have I heard Showgirls from?
It gets made fun of as being a terrible film by a lot of people.
That's probably
not all fair. Taguchi's a good director. No. He's only a good director when he hates the thing he's working on. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Go watch Turkish Delight and tell me you enjoyed that. No.
He's gifted with vision, but only during bouts of hatred.
Yeah, only when it's in 3 films he hated.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to RoboCop. Because, RoboCop himself is meant to be Jesus. That's why the scene of him getting shot the fuck up is just, like, crazy gratuitous. Like, crazy gratuitous. Like, it's like one of the most gory scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super
like they blow his arms off and his feet off, and I mean, there's a reason why they shoot him in the hands and in the feet.
The hands and the feet. Do they also stab him in the side by chance?
I think they shoot him in the side. I think they shoot him.
Probably.
In the side. And then there's a scene where
possibly mean.
Yeah, there's a scene where RoboCop is walking on like 2 inches of water, and it's like, oh, he's walking on water. Like it's Verhoeven put that in there for that reason. And this like film is supposed to be a rebuke against like action films, like American action films. And yet he just made this badass American action film that is well loved in America.
Fun of action films, saying how stupid you are and you're a terrible person for liking these films. It's kind of like how the opposite of The Last Action Hero. The Last Action Hero is a celebration of like action films. This is supposed to be poo-pooing on and making fun of it, but he ended up making a great action film.
Yeah, just a fantastic action film. Funny. An absolute banger.
And like, I still think it's another funny thing is, because like that was RoboCop, and then after that, he said he wanted to make Total Recall, which is supposed to be his anti-science fiction film to show how stupid science fiction is, which is just a banger. He took a short story, which is a great short story. We read it on, I think 2 books ago. We read the short story.
Yeah,
we read it with 451.
Yeah, we'll store that. We'll remember that for you wholesale.
Yeah, great short story. And he took it and made a great movie. And it's like, really now. I'm looking at this like, how did you do that? To like the short. Usually, when you take a short story that's so tight, you screw it up in the movie. But the movie somehow is like adds more, but it's still fantastic. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then he screwed everything up with Basic Instinct. And then he went to, he tried to make a Crusades film, but nobody wanted to do it. Then he made Showgirls. And then he lost so much money on Showgirls, they put a gun to his head and said, you're making Starship Troopers. Yeah, that's the thing.
And then he said,
right.
I'll show you.
RoboCop's supposed to be a critique of capitalism, yet all the corporations are the bad guys in the film. It's not a very good critique of it if all of them suck.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just so bad at critiquing things. He's so bad at critiquing things. I don't know. It comes off as like loving. Like that's how bad he is at critiquing.
Ironically,
things. Like you watch RoboCop and you're like,
have you seen how they make propaganda about the West? It makes us the coolest bastards ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
I think one of my favorite memes is just sort of like be the American the Japanese think you are.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
but the Chinese.
There's a lot of people who are trying to be like, "Oh my god, look at that!" It's the literal meme of like, "This is the coolest thing ever." Like, this is the worst thing ever. It's so fucking cool.
Right, Garble. I get it. We should look at Chinese propaganda. They absolutely hate us. Like the government there, they try their best to make us look like literal vile monsters who like bleed oil, and it just makes us look like the coolest people.
Bleeding, dude, that'd be so cool if we bled oil.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They make us look.
I mean, we do the same thing,
like,
though.
They have eagles that breathe fire and kill people. It's like this is the coolest army ever.
It's like, but these are the bad guys. What do you mean they're the bad guys?
Where is it?
We kind of do the same thing where we make any enemy nation seem way tougher than they are. Like,
don't be idiot.
I don't know. Like the German. Look, this is getting completely off topic, and this is not going to help YouTube. But having said that, the Germans. Fantastic style. Their fashion, very appealing. Okay. They knew how to dress and look good while doing the things that they did.
So I'm trying to get off Goat's point. He said that look at the way we draw our enemies. No, whenever you look at Hitler, he's like fat. He's got like really skinny legs. He's got a big nose. He looks like a goober. I
don't know if I feel like they take one of the times he doesn't look like a goober though. I feel like when he is portrayed, he's usually like.
Yo, have you seen how we drew Japanese people back then? That's not a flattering, empowering image, my friend. That doesn't make you look.
With that one, that kind of goes to a different point. Because, like, well, I guess when are we talking about? Are we talking about like now, or are we talking about like in the 30s?
They don't make people look that cool. So I don't see any pictures of the Taliban wearing like all black with like dubstep in the background.
Okay.
And they rev up chainsaws.
Have you?
The Chinese draw Americans though.
I'm talking about today.
Kid, I will counterpoint with this single GIF that I posted in the secret chat room from Wolfenstein. Like, that looks awesome. But,
so that's not the American military propaganda against them.
That's true. But whenever you hear, like, for a good example is the Navy. The Navy has been, like, very anti-China for a long time. Because, China's usually the ones making messes in the water. If you see how, like, they portray it, whenever they talk about Chinese people, they have 1 billion nukes and, like, 1 trillion plans and are, like, 80 steps ahead of us. Like, even if it's not a cool...
That's verbal stuff. That's them gassing them because they want more money. There's a difference between this is what, we're telling our internal people so we get more money, we're over-prepared, versus this is the propaganda they put up on walls. Have you seen some of the anti-American propaganda the Chinese have made?
Okay, so I guess the difference that we're getting at is just
I'll pull some up.
What I understand what you're saying now, kid, because I was misunderstanding like overall propaganda versus like specifically like government funded. Because if we're going strictly government funded, I agree. I don't know of much where like there's the similar effect.
Yes, I'm saying
but in terms of like culturally and stuff,
and I'll put on
with culturally and stuff and broadly with that type of stuff, I do think there is that kind of that's a good one.
That goes so incredibly hard. Here you go, chat. This is how the Japanese and the Chinese want to portray us as villains. This is like the coolest movie poster I've seen all week.
Speaking of the Chinese, a Chinese man is on screen for the movie, so it's a perfect time.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, Chad, I had to pause the movie for you.
I don't see it paused. Very sad.
For him.
But
Thank you.
Better be.
But yeah, the way that they draw us is just so incredibly cool. Like here's this is one of my favorite ones. Look at the way they drew the aircraft carrier in this one. Loading. Microsoft PowerPoint's crashing. Hang on a sec. There we go. Look at the way they drew this aircraft carrier. Is that not the coolest freaking picture you've ever seen in your life?
Dude.
Like, we look so cool. Carrier? I love being a villain. Yeah, that's an aircraft carrier
is that
with guns and demons coming off of it, with a single Chinese guy on a dinghy boat defending himself. Like, we look so awesome.
I'm not looking at the same thing. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the
probably hasn't loaded on chat yet.
No, yeah. I was looking at the old image with Uncle Sam. That's my bad. Oh, that is good, though.
Yeah, the looks look really cool.
Here, this is them really making fun of Twitter users. Twitter users. You'd expect them to be able to dunk on them. But no, look at this. They make Biden look cooler than any Biden ad has ever done. And they make the people who use Twitter and all this stuff look awesome. Like, this is what I'm saying. This is the American propaganda machine. We look so cool here.
Yeah. We are badasses.
Yeah,
that's true.
Great.
Oh my goodness, he's on the Game of Thrones throne. That's crazy.
And then, chat, please, I understand. Just remember the time. This is how we draw our enemies. When America draws them. Look at these. Chinese drew us dripping oil and shooting fire, and this is how we draw
Oh my.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God.
Look, it was a different time, okay?
Did Walt Disney?
It was a different time. I feel like this is how they just drew stuff, though. Like in the early 1900s, a lot of the art is like that, where it's like very stereotypical and just racist.
Says they could have made it fat and ugly, but we look like a Final Fantasy boss.
Oh no, yeah.
Cool.
It is funny that with China, it's very different, but that's more the exception than the rule, I guess, is my main point.
Here's some middle Korean War anti-American propaganda with MacArthur. Even he looks cool here. He's trying to kill us.
Okay, maybe it's just everyone who hates
too cool.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just us then. Maybe it's a skill issue on their part.
It really is.
They went up against the cool empire.
Holy crap, that does go hard.
Doesn't that go hard?
Oh my goodness.
Oh. All right, let's get back to the main discussion. I'm sorry, Chad. I had to distract us for this.
That's crazy.
What were we even talking about?
We're talking about death.
We were talking about this conversation.
We were talking about Jesus dying for our corporations, I think, in the RoboCop.
Yeah, discussion on RoboCop. I'm sorry. That's one of my passions. I love that stuff. Continue.
Anyway, yeah, RoboCop, great movie. Unintentionally great movie. He wanted to parody action movies, and he made a gratuitously violent action movie that is just badass. So if you want to fail at authorial intent by not putting your own intention into something, just look at his movies. He somehow failed at authorial intent so hard that he didn't put it into his films at all, in any way. I wonder if even he thinks. I wonder if you asked him, if you're like, hey, do you think that you did a good job here? I wonder if he would be like, yeah, I fucking cooked him.
I don't think so, because aren't there literal conventions for Starship Trooper to this day?
Yeah, for sure.
I think he knows that he didn't do it, that it didn't work, at least.
The question you're asking has got to be specific. He knows that people celebrate it, but he thinks we're the idiots. He looks
Wow,
like
that's
people who
sad.
enjoy the film, like, oh, you guys just didn't get it. I'm so much smarter than you idiots because I pulled one over on you. I made you like
That's
this film.
so funny.
It's just amazing. That's what I'm saying. It's the inverse of what you'd expect.
It's like some super level power levels of like cope. Yeah.
Yeah, that's they've asked him in interviews, and he's like, no, I stand by the message of the film, and I believe what he did. With the theme, it's very clear to anybody who actually watched the film what the message is. What do you mean?
We're all silly fools who can't understand his great vision. Sad.
Dude is
So
just coping mad hard.
I wish my brain was that big. I'd be a Rick and Morty fan if my brain was that big.
Rick and Morty fan if my brain was that big.
I would love pickles if I was that smart. My goodness.
And unless anybody has any more thoughts on Death of the Author they wish to bring up.
I agree. Death to all authors. So very true. Very true. Inshallah, brother. Inshallah. Great movie in the background. Highly recommend.
Actually, one of the most important films in film. Yes, it is a great film.
And I love all of you in a very normal way.
Sure you do.
Very sad.
Yeah. I said the thing, I know, right?
Yeah, he said his catchphrase.
Crazy. This is my catchphrase.
So, chat, I am going to pause the film. We're at a minute 30. Next week, not next week, 2 weeks, when I am back from my trip, we will resume the film right where it left off. Let me know in chat and in my Discord if you liked having the film in the background for a stat. I'll find other royalty-free films that have titles if you want, and this could be our little thing. Until next,
that could be neat.
What's up?
I said that could be neat.
Yeah, it might be fun.
Yeah.
When we're not talking about a movie, we put our clips, we put a just generic movie on. So, chat, I will not be here next week. I will be streaming with GG in about 20 minutes, Nebula, I should say, on Nebula the Wanderer. Come swing by and say hi. I will be on a boat next week, so we're not going to do anything. I'm going to do my best to get the current video I'm working on done. It's taking me a bit longer. This is a bit of pain in the butt to research, though. Anybody have anything else they want to say before we say goodbye to chat?
Thank you for being here. It was great to host you all.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, so true.